Both Peter and I up here. Can you hear me? Is that okay? We've been involved in this work for quite a few years, and can I tell you, when I first started this one, especially on herbs, I used to have all little pot plants of all my herbs, and I'd bring them along, and it just got so hard to bring along. So I thought, look, it's so much easier to have a much vaster example by using PowerPoint, because it's just too hard for me to take around all my herbs everywhere when I'm dealing with them. So what I want to talk to you about today is how you can use herbs for your health. And I'm not just talking about the herbs that you may buy from a health food shop. I'm talking to you primarily really about the herbs that you find in your garden, and often that you use and you call weeds. They can be medicinal, because I believe God has given these to us to use for our health. Now, am I supposed to press this on? How am I supposed to work this? Oh, switch it on there. Okay, thank you. Okay, there it is. Well, I just want to let you, just before I start, I just want to let you know that this seminar or this talk today, I want you to use common sense. Don't get yourself excited and decide to go out and start using any and every herb that you find in your garden. Believe me, there are some that are not, you should not use. They are poisonous, and some can make you quite sick. I never forget a time when some people, they were looking for dandelion. They thought they found dandelion, they used a different herb, and they got themselves incredibly sick. So what I want you to know, make sure you can identify your herbs. Be careful, and if you don't know what the herbs are, don't use them. Don't guess. But if you're relatively safe, you feel that you know what they are and you've been told, and that's fine, they're fine to use. Because I believe God's given them to us. They are like God's pharmacy, you know, his herbal pharmacy, the herbs that we're growing in our garden. Okay, now, using your herbs and your wild-crafted herbs, these are healing herbs. I'm sorry, I'll have to turn around here and just look at these. Because they are a source of such powerful healing. Such powerful healing. I'm not going to read all these words. They are rich in chlorophyll. Most herbs you'll find are green. What does the green contain? Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is so beneficial for us. So beneficial. There are countless benefits of chlorophyll. There are phytochemicals. What are phytochemicals? They are plant chemicals that are used. They are put in the plant by God to deter pests, different things, bacteria, viruses, fungi that can protect humans against disease. And there are thousands of known plant phytochemicals. And they're all used for different benefits in our body. Now, an important thing is, when you're using a plant, use the whole plant. For instance, did you know that chemically they can extract parts of the plant out? And this is what happened. There's a plant or a herb called lobelia, and years ago they decided to extract lobeline out of the plant, and they found that if they gave mice this lobeline, that it would kill the mice. And so they said, let's ban lobelia. But on the ratio of what it did in the mice, you would need to be eating about a kilogram of lobelia before it would affect you. And you can't. There's no way you could eat a kilogram of lobelia because it's an emetic. It makes you vomit. That's just not its properties. So what I'm saying is that use plants in their entirety. And another thing, they're great if you use them. There's a word called synergistically. They benefit each other. Really, really good there. Now, have you heard of the doctrine of signatures? The doctrine of signatures is something that a plant is identified by its parts. For instance, if a plant is red, it can help the heart. If a plant is yellow, usually it'll help the liver. And sometimes the way it's shaped also affects what it's used. For instance, did you know ginkgo biloba is shaped like a brain? The leaf of the ginkgo biloba is shaped like a brain. And we know ginkgo biloba is very good for our brain health. You talking some of the nuts and seeds. You take a walnut. A walnut is essential. It's great brain food because it's got omega-3s in it. So what does a walnut look like and it's shaped like? It's shaped like a brain. Okay, so let's just look at them for a moment. You just see the doctrine of signatures. You look at a slice of carrot, sliced straight across. What does it look like? It looks like an eye. And we know carrots are good for our eyesight. What about the grapes? A cluster of grapes. What are grapes known for? Builds up your blood. And the walnut, as I said, it's brain food. Kidney beans, what are they good for? Help and maintain your kidney function. Celery, good for your bones. Avocado, very good and for your female reproductive organs. Figs. Figs are very good for male sterility, but they're very good for any sterility. Okay, sweet potatoes, good for your pancreas. Oranges are very good for women who are breastfeeding. There's mammary glands. Olives, they are very good for health and function of the ovaries. Now, what happens when you cut an onion? You cry. Very, very good for cleaning out your eye area. And we're going to talk a lot more about that tomorrow because we're going to deal with onions tomorrow. But tomatoes are a good heart health. And they have 4 chambers. They are red and they are loaded with lycopene. And they are very good for pure heart food. Sorry, I don't read that one up the back too well. My glasses are not the right... they're not long-sighted glasses, and I can't read that very well. I've sometimes got to turn around here and look at that. Okay, now, what foods surround us most of all? I want you to realise that there is much food out there that most people don't know about. I remember listening to an American man who said, even if you lived in suburb city, he said within 1 mile, which is, I suppose, let's say about 2 kilometres, a kilometre and a half, around your house, you could live quite well if you knew what to go out onto the nature strip, pick berries, leaves. You could live and survive. Now, most people don't know that. And the wild foods that's surrounding you, you could live off, and they can actually build your heart health up. They could build your health up. We can talk about it later. When I get to the hawthornberry, maybe I'll ask you to talk about your story on hawthornberry, Peter. But we've got herbs that surround us everywhere. And we don't know. Most people, if I say and I talk to them about hawthorn berries, they have no idea what to look for. They don't even know what the tree looks like, and yet how beneficial it is to you. So we need to be understanding that you can have incredible plant-based healing herbs that will help your health. And they're free, really. Most of them are free. Sometimes you have to buy them. And so what for wild food surrounds most of us, and most people don't know. They could even live what's growing in their lawn. I know and I understand you. If you've got animals and all that sort of stuff, you need to be aware of that. But I'm talking about clean herbs, wild-crafted herbs. Now, how reliant are you on the supermarket and grocery store? Now, it's quite possible, and I believe we are probably in for some very, very hard times soon ahead. If you have your ear and your eyes on what's happening around you, and you realise what some of the things that are happening on behind the scenes, you know where the world is set up for a time of food shortages. It's happening out there. And so what we need to be aware of, what we can look in the wild, how we can survive, what leaves we can eat, what berries we can eat. And believe me, some of them taste pretty ordinary, but I know what it's like. If you're hungry, you will eat anything. So that's the aim in mind. Okay, so how could you live without buying groceries? Okay, so within 2 kilometres where you live is enough food to keep you alive, even if you live in a suburban town or a city. And if you've got a block of land, and Peter and I, we just live in a suburb, we live in Lavington in Albury, which just got a house block, but we've left our, I couldn't say we've got our garden very tidy, but I've got certain sections of my garden which we don't weed because they are our weeds, they are our medicine. So it took a long time for Peter to learn to leave them in there because he's a very clean and tidy gardener. So I just said, no, we'll leave that one there. Yeah. Okay, so how do you take herbs? Well, you can take herbs. You can buy herbs if you have to. You can go to a health food shop. You can buy herb teas. You need to have a herbal infusion. You can actually have a decoction. That's where you simmer up your herbs. Maybe you're having, and usually a decoction you use when you've got roots or barks or berries. Or you can have swallowed as pills or powders. So you can take them in different ways. Have fresh leaves. You can make herb oils using dry leaves. And I'll talk about this tomorrow because we're going to go into how you can use some of those. But your tinctures, you can use, sometimes I've used alcohol. I've also used apple cider vinegar, and I've used different ones. I've used glycerine, that's the other one. Plus I've also, and you can add your herbs to your baths and your foot bath. We'll talk about that later. Okay, now our very first herb that I'm going to touch on today, before I go for a walk in my garden, I'm just going to talk about alfalfa. Now, alfalfa is called the king of herbs. Why? Because guess what? It is so rich in minerals. Now, most people are not aware, and let's just look at what you're living on. Let's just look at the vegetables that you're eating in your everyday life. Most vegetables grow in soil. How deep? Maybe, I don't know, would it be this deep, this deep? I don't know, could grow a bit deeper. But what about your annuals? What about your perennials? How much deeper do the roots grow? Did you know that they say alfalfa has roots grow down to about 30 metres in the ground? Now guess what? Those plants that are all in these different levels, they're bringing up trace minerals to their leaves. And so if you're harvesting the leaves of some of these trees, you're getting trace minerals that are right down deep in the earth. And so you're getting many more different minerals than if you're eating just vegetables that are grown into this much soil. You're not getting the depth of your trace minerals into you. So that's why it's a good idea to eat a variety of things. And we're not just eating your vegetables, but we're also getting you to drink your leaves, drink your in herbal teas, And sometimes you don't have to, as I said, you don't have to have a herbal tea. You can make it with the green leaves. But you need to understand that alfalfa is a king of herbs, and you need to use it. Alfalfa, and often, like I mean for us, I don't have all these herbs fresh all the time. I don't grow alfalfa. But I've included in there because I want you to realise it is great for you to start drinking alfalfa tea. We have lots of different herbal teas. I've got heaps and heaps of herbs in one of my cupboards, in glass jars, right across in the top of my cupboard. And I don't use it all the time, but by the way, herbs, they don't really go off. Let's say you've got a herb there that may be 10 years or 15 years old. It won't go bad. It may lose some of its potency, but it won't go bad and say, oh, I've got to throw this out, it's no good. Yeah, it may be a little bit less potent, but it's not going to harm you if you use it. Not like medication. You know, you wouldn't want to use medication that's 20 years old, but a herb is different. So you can use, and you can use all these things. As I said, you can help your digestion. It helps detoxify your liver. You can use it in your baths. You can use it for, you can cut it up fresh in your meals, okay, with alfalfa sprouts. And time to time, I make quite a few sprouts. I do also microgreens, which are a different way to use that's growing in little bits of soil. They are great. They are so nutritious. But your alfalfa, having them, they are super nutritious. Okay, hawthorn berry. This is another one which we have. We haven't got it in our place, although it's Peter and I have gone looking for hawthorn berry. Peter, maybe you can come up and just talk about Peter tells me, I'll come up and I'll tell him some of my stories. When you were a boy, what did you do in Germany?
I'll stand in front.
Okay.
Well, those are hawthorn berries. But you only got one colour in Australia, and that's red. Where I come from in Germany, you got them in red, black, and grey. You can eat the berries. If you've got a heart problem, get into that. Spoonsful of it. Powder. Mix it up in water, drink it 3 times a day. And we as kids, we used to eat the berries, but the pips inside them are very hard, so we just ate the flesh. But we also ate the leaves and the flowers. I grew up in a family where it was never enough to eat, so as soon as we finished a meal, we're still hungry, we would go out and eat, like if that wasn't growing on the trees, we would eat hawthorn berries, plus a lot of other things. But we also ate things that were not very good for you. I'm not talking about that, but these berries. My grandmother was a herbalist. She swore by them. They taste all right. We were down at the Cairn River. Now, if you're not from Victoria, you wouldn't know what that is. It's in Gippsland. And we were driving along, and I said to my wife, look at those hawthorn berries. They're the biggest I've ever seen in Australia because they're living in an area what they liked. And we went in there, harvested them, and took several containers full home, dried them, and used them. But pardon? I suppose you could. I suppose you could. We never cooked them, we ate them raw. And stacks of them. But of course, you know, they grow a certain period of time, and that's how we grew up. But we still use hawthorn berry powder every day.
Okay, thank you, Peter. As I said, hawthorn berry powder, it's the herb for heart herb. Excellent for if you've got any problems with your heart, you need to get into hawthorn berry. It helps angina, it helps heart palpitations, it helps lots of things. So get into hawthorn berry. There's a lot of hawthorn berries around where we are. Often councils plant them in nature strips. So once you know what to look for, you'll find them. Some people use the leaves, some people use the berries, and it's all healthy, okay? That's just over the road. I took that photo. It's just over the road from us in the nature strip. That's what the flower looks like. And so they are excellent. So you can see, I can't read, I'm not going to read all these words in this PowerPoint because it'll just take me too long. Okay, but they are so good for you. By the way, caution, don't use, the only time you're not to use hawthorn berry is if you were taking digitalis. But but if you've got heart problems, get into hawthorn berry. It's excellent for you. Okay, red clover. Now here's another one. You need to, if you haven't got red clover, and I know a family, they used to go out in their backyard, they'd pick their red clover blossoms because it purifies your blood. It's so good for you. Countless things, purifies your blood. So get out there, and if you, as I said, if you don't want to get out there and pick it yourself, if you don't know what it looks like, just go to the health food shop. Get red clover. Here you get the blossoms. St. John's wort. Now, where I come from, we have a lot of St. John's wort growing. And when you actually crush the flower, it goes red in your hand. And I've made St. John's wort oil, which is very good for nerve pain, very good for neuralgia, any of that type of pain. And I just make it and I use it in oil. But you can actually take it as a herb, and it's probably the herb of choice for anybody who has depression. Very good for those people who have anxiety. You need to get into your St. John's wort tea or St. John's wort. And if you don't want to drink it as tea, you can get the herb, you can crush it up and you can put them in capsules. Okay, but be careful if you and by the way too, all of these herbs, if somebody is pregnant, you need to be very careful with what you're taking and putting in your mouth because there can be a contradiction if you're carrying a child. So just realise that. And if you're on medication, sometimes these herbs can contradict with medication, so you need to work it out yourself and find out. But this is just general information for people now who are basically want to be educated in what herbs can do for you. Chamomile. Chamomile is something that's grown, and what does it do? It reduces menstrual pain, it reduces a lot of things. Peter, maybe you can come up and I'll just get you out of the way here and I'll get you to come up and talk to them about what you did. What happened to you when you were a little boy? Okay, go back to that one. Chamomile. Did you know that, when Peter was a boy, he had boils. This was in Germany. Remember when he was talking to you about not having food? That's when he grew up in Germany after the war. Okay.
I was the only one in my family that likes Brussels sprouts. And someone gave my mother a tub full of Brussels sprouts. My brother and my sisters and even my father and my mother didn't like them. Guess who ate them all? Me. But after I ate them, I broke out in boils. I've still got scars on my shoulder, in my backside, full of boils. The lady that gave the Brussels sprouts to my mother forgot to tell her that she had fertilized them with human feces. And my mother just rinsed them off. She didn't wash them properly. So I broke out in boils. While my grandmother comes, she gets chamomile. They grow everywhere where we lived. She could get a bag full of chamomile, and we had a large laundry, and there was a huge bathtub. And there was a boiler over the top, and she got the boiler going. And I can hardly walk because I had them here, in here. You could straighten out. Oh, look, it was terrible. And it reminds me of one of the plagues, the first plagues, the boils. Anyway, so she made this hot water. She cleaned, the dirt of the roots and flowers, all the chamomile. And she's got this boiling water, and she's dipped it all in there and boiled it up. And I'm standing there. And I said to her, what are you going to do? She said, you're going to have a bath in it. And she ran the bath, poured the juice into it. I had to drink the tea, and I'm lying up to here in my with my arms, and I couldn't straighten my arms up because the boils were in here. I couldn't straighten them out. And I tell you what, some of them were double headers. Oh, the pain. And I'm lying there, and of course the smell is very calming. I'm drinking it, and all of a sudden, I could straighten my arm. The boil popped, another boil popped, another boil popped, another boil popped. And it was actually when it was like popping, and all the pus came out. And I'm lying in that water. Oh, my grandmother, it's working. Get out. She emptied the water out, put new water in, more chamomile. Back I went into it. And eventually it cleansed them all out. And from that moment on, I could walk, lie, and sleep. But I tell you what, I smelled of chamomile for days to come. But I was cured.
You know, these old European healers, they knew what to use. They knew how to use these sort of things. And we've lost that ability. And I can remember when I first heard these stories from Peter, it excited me because I'd never heard of them. Okay, sage is another tea that you can drink, and it is so good. Herbal folklore has venerated as a sacred herb capable of increasing lifespan. And I can't remember which of the Wesley brothers said that all they need in life is sage tea, and they're going to heal of everything. Another thing was they used parsnip poultices too. So you can use sage. You can see that it reduces. Look, I can't read all those. Everything. It is so good for everything, but get into these sort of things. And another one too is the benefits of garlic. Garlic is excellent for you. Garlic is a master herb. You need to get it. And I know it has an odour. I understand that. But you need to realise that you're going to have to add it to a lot of things. And what we usually do, if we have it, we just have it of an evening, and so you can sleep it off in the morning, and you're not reeking of garlic. I remember my father in his later years of his life, he got onto a garlic kick, and he loved garlic. He put it in everything. He used to put it in his porridge. He had 5 cloves of garlic sliced up in his porridge in the morning. And I remember going out with him, and I had to say to him, and he was a widower at that stage, I said to him, Dad, you can't do this. You just smell so much. Anyhow, but he enjoyed it, and it prolonged his life a little bit longer. Okay, garlic, all the things you can use garlic for. Now, the corn silk. You got corn, and we're nearly to this. Well, I suppose some people will be close to harvesting their corn. Eat your corn, of course, but save the silk. What you do is you pull all the silk off, dry it out, lay it out, and if you've got a dehydrator, that's excellent too, which I like drying mine out in a dehydrator, but sometimes I've only got 1 or 2 cobs of corn, and I don't want to start the dehydrator up for 1 or 2 cobs of corn. So I just lay them out on a little tray or a dish or something like that and just leave it. They'll take about 2 to 3 weeks to dry out, and then you just, for each cob of corn, it sort of separates, and that's what you would put in dry. You dry it, and then you just put it away in a glass jar, and then if you have a urinary tract infection, this is what you use. And I have helped so many people with this. And I've got a store of them at home. There's been times people come to me and they say, what do I use for it? So I give them a few corn silks, and it just cures up urinary tract infections just like that. Okay, corn silk tea. Now I'm going to take you through a walk through our garden, just showing you what I go and I pick and I use in my drink. So I'm using, first of all, I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to collect these wild edible green weeds and plants, and I call them God's pharmacy. Now, what's the first thing that I'm going to pick? No, it's violet leaves. And you can see I'm not going to read them out what each one's used for. But I picked probably about 2 or 3 violet leaves and the violet flower. These are all edible. You can see how good they are. They do all these things for you. Then I walk on a little bit further, and I picked some strawberry leaves. Now, strawberry leaves, did you know? I mean, other than the strawberries are nice, but the leaves are an excellent blood cleanser. And who's realising what you can use strawberry leaves in as medicine? You can see there. Okay, then I go on a little bit further. What do you think this is? It's a bit of mint. Now, you can get lots of varieties of mint, and we didn't even plant our mint in our garden. It's just come up everywhere, and I believe the birds have brought it in. But mint, and it's very nice to add to your green drink because it's got a nice taste to it. Then I go on a little bit further. What am I going to pick here? Fig leaves, you're right. Fig leaves, most people just go for the figs, which a lot of people find very nice. But I'm using the leaves, and by the way, when I'm picking these leaves, I generally find I don't go for the big old tough ones, I go for a smaller, more tender one. But fig leaves, they are very good for diabetics. Fig leaves are best known for treating diabetes. So you can treat if you've got diabetes, and by the way too, by taking a little bit, if you don't have diabetes, that's fine, but by doing this all the time, it's like a bit of an insurance policy so you won't get diabetes. So we've been doing this off and on for years. We don't do this every single day, but this is what we do. And when we're going through our garden, we pick up this green drink. I usually if I've got fig leaves, which I've had, I pick a few leaves, and usually it's just one leaf, because there's only just the two of us at home now, so we don't have so many people at home. Then I go a little bit further. What do I find next? Peach leaves. Who's using the leaves? Everybody likes the peaches, but who's using the leaves of medicine? And it's really interesting, because if I do a talk when there's some people around and they have got the European background of knowing what herbs to use, just like Peter's grandmother knew, they all know that peach leaves is an excellent lung problem. If you've got lung problems, if you've got coughing, if you've got whooping cough, if you've got any of those bronchial issues, you need to take peach leaves. So what I do now, this time of the year, I will go out and I'll harvest some peach leaves, and they will dry it up for when I need them in the winter, because you don't have peach leaves all year through. So get yourself a little store of peach leaves, because one day you're going to use them. I've used many of them, and it's not just for yourself, it's for family members, it's people who come by. Sometimes you don't even really know the person very well, but you share with them what you've got. Then I go a little bit further. Now, I bought this particular one. This was yarrow. Now, I specifically bought yarrow because I knew how. I was doing a lot of fever baths. Now, fever baths are when you put people in hot baths to bring on, and often a fever bath can cure people of things like cancer and those type of things. But I was using the yarrow because yarrow induces perspiration. So I bought the plant specifically for this. So I have yarrow, and I've still got it in my garden. I bought these plants probably 20 plus years ago, and it still stays there. And so it is great. Then I've also bought some of this, that's fennel. It also does the same type of thing. You can see what it's very good. You can use I actually use the leaves, although I know you can use fennel seeds, but it calms nerve. You can read there, builds strength and endurance. I bought this as well too. This is my little section where I bought these herbs. This is called salad burnet and tastes a little bit like a cucumber, but it's very good for internal cleansing. Look, they all do different things. Some work with your digestion, some work with your lungs, some work with your heart, but they all work with different things. Now, as God has placed properties in these that we can use and our bodies find them helpful. Okay, now I also don't pass by the humble old parsley, because what's parsley used for? Well, it can be used for lots of things, but probably more so as a diuretic. But you can also use the parsley root. When your plant has finished on the top, you can actually dig it out and you can save the root, and you can dry it up and chop it up, and you can use it, and you can use that in a decoction. You would simmer that up after it's dried up. Do you know what this is? Kale. Yes, that's kale. So you can put kale in it too. Most people are aware of the benefits of kale in their food. Very good. You can use it in type 1 and type 2 diabetes. You can just glance down there for all its properties. But I add a little bit of kale. Then I walk on a little bit further, and guess what I find? I usually have carrots in. And carrots, nearly every single year I'll grow a bed of carrots. And I leave them in the ground over the winter and pull them out as I want in the winter. Now, most people who use carrots as carrots, but who's using the tops? Because the tops are so rich in vitamin A. It says has many more times vitamin A than the root and 6 times the vitamin C of the root. And who's using carrot tops? But believe me, don't use too many. I never forget the time I had all this garden. I thought, look, I can't waste all these carrot tops. I was pulling them all out. So I thought, I'll put them all in a green drink. Well, I tell you what, it was so strong. It gives you a bit of a diarrhea reaction, I can tell you that. Cleans you out. And so the carrot tops are very strong. So when you want to add them to your green drinks, you need to be a little bit careful not putting too many in. But they are so nutritious. And who's thinking of putting the tops in their food? Then a little bit further, beetroot. Now these are beetroot leaves. Just so you can we add a few beetroot leaves in. I never forget the time we were just learning all about herbs, and I put some beetroot in, and I thought, oh boy, we could both feel them doing something in our body, and you could feel I can feel this in my hands, and you realise how powerful these herbs are. We could almost feel it circulating in our body. A little bit further on, add a bit of spinach. I add that, so I pick off a little piece of spinach. Then I go a little bit further. And so what do I pick now? I pick some oxalis. Oxalis is a little lemony, citrusy flavoured herb that some people call it soursop. Okay? And they've got like a little heart-shaped leaf that's joined on the point of the heart. And it is so healthy for you. I actually grew and planted this oxalis in my garden. A lot of these herbs weren't growing wild in my garden, and they're really weeds, but I've put them in so that I've got these there. Okay, now, calendula. This is a proper calendula. Now, it's not marigold. The marigold that some people have in their front gardens as a flower is a relation of it, but this is the proper calendula that is a herb, and you can make calendula oil. Calendula is a very, very healing one. Now you use the petals. I throw the complete head in my drink, which I'm just snip off the head and I just put it in because I'm using a blender, and then I just pop the whole thing in my smoothie or my drink. And you see, look at all the things you can use calendula for. So don't overuse, be careful. My sister loves this one. She says it's the best herb out. Okay, then I go on a little bit further. What have I got here? I've got purslane. Purslane is like sometimes I think some people call it summer weed, but it comes in this time of year. It's got a little waxy leaf and a purpley stem. Now, did you know that purslane is the richest source of omega-3 in the plant kingdom? And who's going out to their garden and weeding all this purslane out and not realising that they can just slice it up and put it in their salad? And I'm saying that you can use a lot of these particular herbs. If you're not sure at the beginning, you can use maybe a lettuce, then add this in. You don't have to have this your salad is all as purslane, but just add in a handful of these to your salad, and you're getting some of the nutrition in that way. Okay, I don't know if you know this one. This is mullein, and I've grown this. Each year it comes self-sows at home, and we've got a mullein plant at home that would be higher than that. Honestly, it is so high. And those leaves, the bottom leaves are about this big, and they taper off as they get to the middle up there. And there is a stalk up the top that has little flowers on it. Now those flowers, if you soak those in oil, are excellent for hearing. They help your hearing. Now, who knows this? Okay, so I usually grow the mullein, and I'll pick off these herbs and then just soak them in a little bit of oil, then strain off that oil, and you put 1 drop in your ear a day for hearing. So you've got this mullein. They actually say that mullein is another, they say it's poor man's toilet paper. It is so soft, and the leaves are like huge. Like a little bit like that lamb's ear, but that's much smaller. This grows huge. They used to use those stalks. I think they used to use them, and they maybe soak them in oil, and they would be like you could walk around, and you could have this flaming torch. And they would light your way, as in the medieval times. They used to use those with mullein. Okay, then we go on here. This is a little bit further. This is marjoram. Well, I just throw it in because I've got it. Here is another one. I don't know, some of you know of cleavers. Cleavers is also known as sticky weed. It's that stuff in your garden that you can walk around, and it just sticks to you everywhere if you're walking in. It sticks to your socks or your trousers or your whatever. Well, who tells you that cleavers is an excellent herb for urinary tract infections, for lymphatic blood flow? So get onto your cleavers. What I do, if I find these, I'll just pick them and I'll just dry them. So I've got a lot of herbs drying. Here's another one. This here is marshmallow. Marshmallow is, I can remember the story when I was doing my herbal course, one of the tutors, he was saying that they use marshmallow, and they put, like Peter's grandmother did, they threw the marshmallow in a bathtub. They put that many leaves, and believe me, when I was growing up, I grew up on a farm, and we had poultry, and so where you've got poultry, you've got marshmallows and stinging nettle, and we had so many plants of marshmallow. And this herbal teacher of mine told me that they just bundled up and they put them in a bath, and they put all hot water, and they allowed it to soak. And when it was the right temperature, they had a fella get in it who had gangrene in his legs, and they cured the gangrene by soaking in marshmallow tea. This particular one is dandelion. Now, dandelion, I've actually on the right-hand side of the screen, I've got it. When I've cut the dandelion stalk across, it is hollow. It is shaped like a straw. The dandelion has it grows from a rosette down the bottom, 1 stalk, 1 flower. 1 stalk, 1 flower. But there is another plant that when it's tiny, it looks very similar to dandelion, and that's the one on the right-hand side, on the top corner. And I've put it down there because you can see it's got all those branches growing off that bottom stalk. It's got little branches. That is not dandelion, although it looks like it when it's little. As it grows older, you can see a lot of difference. See, a dandelion has a smooth leaf. This cat's ear has got a furry leaf. And the one on the left is Kaye Tapeweed. Yeah, we were taught that when I was a kid, my family told me, oh, that's dandelion. And I was an adult before I realised I didn't know what dandelion really was. So you've got to be careful. So this is dandelion. It's a diuretic. It's good for your kidneys. It will good anything like that. I had one of my friends, she came and she said to me she grew dandelion and she used the root, and she cured herself of hypoglycemia by using dandelion. Every day, dandelion. A lot of people are healed. If you're really serious, you'll get into these herbs. So great. Then this one here is stinging nettle. I can remember my mother-in-law was telling me after Germany, after the war, and with those are the years Peter was talking about, she said there was no food. No one had food. Those kids were always hungry. So what did you do? You don't have food? She said you'd go out and you'd pick stinging nettles. And I thought, stinging nettles? Well, you'd heard these Germans, these Europeans, they used to live on stinging nettles after the war. Why? Well, they found that they were so nourishing, and they are excellent for you. But how do we pick stinging nettles? Well, number one, I believe you need to pick them with rubber gloves on, and then you cut them off, and I just lay them on a breadboard, and I roll a rolling pin over the top of it, and it takes all the stings out, and you can slice it up, you can eat it raw, you could have it they used to cook it into like spinach, they'd simmer it and they'd make it into and you can, I tell you what, I've even got a recipe in my book for lettuce soup. You can use all these different greens in your food. And most people are not aware of it. The stinging nettles are so healthy for you. Excellent for men's prostate. That you use stinging nettle combined with saw palmetto for men's prostate. And for women who are having problems with iron problems, excellent to get into stinging nettle. Okay, this one, very interesting. Do you know what this is called? This is broadleaf plantain. Now, plantain is it grows a stalk. On that stalk, it's got like a flower head type of thing, but I strip those flower head things off, and I save them because they're psyllium. They're like the psyllium family, and you just throw them in a stew or something like that, and that adds thickening to your food, so you can get them in your psyllium. The plantain, getting back to that one, plantain is a very, very good blood purifier. I can still remember one woman, she moved away from a home just for a week or a couple of weeks. She had very severe, heavy menstrual bleeding, and she had to get iron up very quickly. And she moved to an area where she couldn't get to a shop to buy greens. So she lived on plantain for about 2-3 weeks to get her iron levels right up high again. They are so rich in iron. And when she was there, she had teenage children. She had 2 teenage boys, and they were about, like 13 or 14. And I said to the boys, well, how did you find that? They were eating this. This is in there. They didn't have lettuce. They just used to eat plantain. And I said, how did you boys find it? Oh, yeah, we all found it all right, which is pretty good because, usually you find kids that age a bit fussy. Well, they weren't at all. So plantain is really great for rebuilding and getting up your, building up your blood. This one is yellow dock. Yellow dock has it. We went out and dug up this. When I was doing my herbal course, we went out and found some yellow dock. I know what yellow dock looks like. And Peter and I went out and we found a plant, and we dug it out, and honestly, the root would have had to have been this long. It was like a humongous carrot. I mean, it had a lot of roots coming off there. And I brought it home and I thought, how are we going to dry this? And so Peter got out the tomahawk and the axe and the tomahawk and chopped it all up, and I saved it up and dried it. And it wasn't long when I realised I needed it, because this is a time of my life when I was going through heavy menstrual flow. I needed iron in a hurry. And I know that the richest source of iron in the plant kingdom is found in the root of the yellow dock. So I went out, I had this yellow dock root, and I had a big pot, and I simmered it like this. Was Easter weekend. And I had gone to the doctor earlier, and the doctor says, you are borderline transfusion. I'll give you to the weekend to see if you can get your iron levels up. So I simmered this up, and I drank it over that weekend. I tell you what, it was black. It tasted shocking. I also went for, we could buy Lloyd's grape juice then, the pure grape juice. I had that because I know that's very good to rebuild your blood up. Plus I bought from the health food shop liquid chlorophyll. Well, 1 week of this, weekend, it was Easter weekend, so I went back to the doctor on the Tuesday after the weekend, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. He said, what have you done? He says, I can't believe how you've got your blood up. And I thought to myself, thank you, Lord. You can get it up by using simple things, just simple things like this. But yellow dock, richest source of iron in the plant kingdom. Okay, sheep sorrel. This here you can use. This is an ingredient in Essiac tea. This is in the tea that is very famous for cancer patients. And so we got some yellow sheep sorrel, much to Peter's dismay because it comes up everywhere. Everywhere. Just like your dandelion comes up everywhere. Peter says, why did we get dandelion? But I'm just persevering with it because I love it. Okay, you go on a little bit further. What do we find? I have got loads of this. You will need it. Believe me, put comfrey in. Comfrey is knit bone. Comfrey is used to strengthen your bones. It is used for any breakage in your bones. It's not only that, it's also good for rebuilding collagen. I'm going to tell you some stories tomorrow about comfrey. Absolutely incredible what you can use comfrey for because it will heal. It heals tendons, it heals ligaments, it heals bones. It is so good. But it's also a green. You can actually take it internally as a medicine. And I just use a leaf. They say you shouldn't use too much comfrey leaf. Well, we've been using it and they say it's supposed to no good for you, but we've been using it for years and it's done us no harm. Okay, then we go on a little bit further and we've got some aloe vera, much to Peter's dismay again, because I grow aloe vera Now there's different types of aloe vera. This one's called aloe vera candelabra. Then you've got aloe vera barbadensis. Now candelabra grows out on the main stalk it's got branches coming out, but the barbadensis grows from the rosette down the bottom. Now there is a third there's lots of varieties of aloe vera, but the third variety of aloe vera is called the perii. Now that's a tiny little one. That's nowhere near as nutritious or healthy for you as these two, barbadensis and candelabra. I say this barbadensis is so good. Okay, you can use it not only for your burns, for health, but it is so good to take internally. It'll heal your digestive tract. People who've got irritable bowel syndrome, use aloe vera, use slippery elm, but this is aloe vera combined with that. So you can use that for all of your things. Then we go on a little bit further, and this is another one that's coming up. I noticed one. It comes up in cracks everywhere in your garden. It is called herb robert. Supreme therapeutic herb. One of the most strongest herb that will deliver oxygen to your cells. It is a superior herb for anything that you could possibly use, and it is great for cancer patients. But I tell you what, it's got a bitter taste, and a lot of these herbs, especially if you're using them for your liver, are bitter. And Peter often faithfully sits up there and eats his few. Oh, look, I put them in drinks and that, but he'll sit up there and he'll eat a few leaves as he's eating his meal, having his herb robert. Then I go along here. Now this one here is not, do not eat. This is called radium weed. Now I've included that because did you know it looks a lot, when it's little, it looks like chickweed. As it grows up, you can tell that it's not. But what it is you use the sap on it. In the bottom right-hand corner, I've got a little segment there that I've picked it off, and you take the sap of radium weed, and that's what you use to burn skin cancers off with. Excellent. But if you use it, it's going to blister. So there's no good if you want to burn off a skin cancer, let's say on the back of your hand, that's fine, but you're going to get a blister. If you want to burn it off your nose, which is a lot of people will, you remember you're going to have a blister. So if you want to go somewhere within the next week, if you've got some big appointment on, a special function on, don't put it on the middle of your nose unless you know you've got maybe 3 or 4 weeks for it to heal. Yes, it will heal and it'll burn your cancer off. But just realise, take your time with it. And don't do too many. I know somebody, they put it all over their forehead to burn their cancers off. I tell you what, it blisters and you can turn it quite sore, can get literally very sore because it's healing. Okay, so then I'm getting to, and this is my next step. I'm getting it, I've picked them all and I've put them in a bowl. These are my leaves that I've walked through the garden. Then I've got a bit of frozen fruit that I've got in the freezer. And you don't have to have the frozen fruit, but I put it in. Put a little bit of water in my blender and I blend it up. And there's not much down the bottom, but that's my drink. Now you can use this as a smoothie. If you want to, and this is the other way that I do it, I use it as a smoothie like this. Now the second way I do it is I actually take the same thing. I don't put the fruit in. Now the fruit's only for a bit of palate, to make it a little bit more palatable. But believe me, I just think to myself, and my philosophy is, doesn't matter what it tastes like, just drink it and get it down and remember it later. Yes, I know sometimes if you're dealing with kids, you've finally got to sort of get the taste right, because otherwise I think, oh, no, I'm not going to take that. But for me and Peter, I said, just drink it. Forget about what it tastes like. Once it's down, once it's past your lips and down, it's all good for your body. Forget about the taste. So what I do in the second way is I just put a little bit more water in and I strain the leaves out. I just put it through a strainer. So I've just got liquid green water and I drink that down. Now that is so healthy for you. You've got all those enzymes and minerals in from all those plants. That is such easy medicine to take. Even if you've just got a blender, just go around. And even if you have 4 or 5 herbs that you can pick, you don't have to pick all what I've picked, because some of those that I've got in my presentation here are seasonal. I don't have like fig leaves and peach leaves all year through. But I just wanted to show you. Plus, I also do grape leaves. I think I had that in one of them, and I don't know whatever happened to the grape leaf picture, but I've lost that somewhere along the line. I just remember that one. So you can pick grape leaves. You can do all these things. And just add them to your water, blend them, and just drink it down. Now, there's been many classes I've done, and I've had these, and I've shown people how to do it. And if you've got children, I don't usually use water. I use pineapple juice. And I've rarely ever had it, and I've given out my juice. I've got the green juice, and I give it to everyone, give a taste. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I could drink that. Nearly every single person, if you put it in pineapple juice, they say, oh, yes, that's nice. So I know it does help you if you put it in juice. But for me, I can handle it straight in water, but I know kids can't, or some people can't. So you just got to be mindful of what you're sharing with these people, because if you want to try to get somebody to taste it and especially if you've got a child, you want the children to like it, you're going to have to sort of make it a little bit more attractive to them. Otherwise, if they screw their nose up once, you know that it'll generally be, oh no, I'm not going to taste that, it's shocking. But to us adults who have learned lessons along the way, you realise that not everything in life is going to taste nice, is it? So that's one way you can take your green. Now, another way you can do it, which we are fortunate enough, we've got a green press. It's a machine that actually you can put your leaves in and you can put all your juice in up the top and it just squeezes and it just comes out. But not everybody has got that. But you can get those. Ideal, but quite frankly, the first way I said through the blender is going to be more practical and easier for most people. Okay, but there is another old herb remedy. This doctor, old herbal doctor's special herbal mix. He said collect any 25 non-poisonous plants, herbs, leaves, flowers, seeds, barks and roots. Properly dry them, grind them in a uniform size, mix together and store in a covered glass jar. Boil a litre of water, add your 4 teaspoons of your dried herbs, cover and let stand for 30 minutes, strain, add lemon and honey if you wish, and 1 litre of this herb tea will provide all the daily requirements of daily vitamins and minerals. And I tell you, I really believe that we who have lived in our society here, and we've been exposed to the Western diet, almost every single one of us is very depleted in our minerals. Why? They're not in the soil. You're right. That's why it's right deep down in the soil. That's why we need to go a little bit deeper to bring up those trace minerals that are right deep down in the ground. So you need to become educated. You could buy yourself a book, find out what herbs are edible. I mean, I know that one of the best herbs for diabetics is the leaf of a prickly pear. Who's telling people to use the leaf of a prickly pear? Now, most people don't even know what a prickly pear is anyhow. So you need to become very used to knowing what to look for in your herbs, going outside the box. Look, I don't know everything. There's a lot of herbs I don't know, especially if I go to different areas, I'm not sure of the herbs. But I know things like we've got down where our daughter and son-in-law live, they have a whole lot of pines around them. So we can use the pine needles. We know that that's good. Pine needle tea, very, very good. They actually say pine needle tea is one of the best herbs to counteract any of this problem with this vaccination that some people are having. Pine needle tea, licorice root, all these sort of things, they can be used for your health. And this one here, this old herb doctor's special remedy, he says if you drink this every day, you drink a herbal tea every day. I remember when Peter was working, I'd always send him a thermos of herbal tea every day, and sometimes it was foul. It tasted so terrible, but he'd faithfully drink it. Because our philosophy is it doesn't matter really what it tastes like. Once it gets down the hatch, does you good down there. Once it's rebuilding all your cells in your body. And as I said, I just re-emphasise that for some people they can't handle that, but that's all right. Especially if you're of the old school, which we are. Okay, another one you can, if you want to get green into you and you don't have the chance to go out, even into your garden, you haven't got that, get yourself some barley green powder. Or you can have wheatgrass powder, you can have spirulina powder, you've got different powders. I can still remember my grandson came home to one day, he was visiting, and he says to me, "Oh, Nan," he says, "we learnt at school that there was a man there, they brought a man into his school, and he says he cured himself of his cancer, and he had 12 teaspoons of barley green powder every day, and that cured him of his cancer." And I thought to myself, well, that's great. I love it when the young ones are being taught this in the school, because that's in the back of their mind. But so many of us are so frightened to really eat green. So eat green. If you're suffering from cancer, that's your body's warning, I want more green. I want more green. So get green into you in any way possibly that you can get. And so what they do is they have barley green. They just shoot the barley, and it grows up so high, and they just cut it off and they mow it, and then they freeze dry it. Great stuff.
Barley grass?
Yeah, barley grass, barley green powder, barley grass. A little bit different. Wheat grass is just grown with wheat. Barley grass is grown with barley. Now, we went through phases. We have tried so many crazy things in our journey of health. One time we decided to grow our own wheatgrass, and we found it very hard, because if you're growing your own wheatgrass, you've got to find the exact right location to grow it, because it very easily gets mould in it. And we found out, well, we've got a friend, he grows it faithfully, and he grows it for commercially goes into some of the, the juice bars, and he gives them trays of wheatgrass where they juice it, and he sells it to them. So, and he showed us how he does it, and I've seen it, but he's got it in a hothouse, and he's got the setup exactly right. He knows the right blend of the soil that it goes in and all that. So you've got to know what you're doing if you're growing this yourself. So it's just much easier to buy your barley green, and we do it. We've been on barley green for 30 plus years, and Peter and I often say, well, this is really what's kept our health together. This has been like the key thing. I mean, we've done lots of things. It's not the other thing. I know it's also trusting God. We've learned to trust in God. But the nutrition part of it, we've been very faithful with our health, but we've also added lots of green into our life. And even though we've taken the leaves, we're also doing a barley green every morning. And in that barley green, we put in a teaspoon of hawthorn berry powder, we put in a teaspoon of maca powder, teaspoon of turmeric, a teaspoon of pinch of cayenne pepper. Peter has a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I have less. I don't like as much cayenne pepper as he does. Yeah. That's one thing that I've never been a person who likes hot food, and he can handle a lot hotter. But if you like cayenne pepper, that's great. Yeah. Okay, so also too, just to finish off, I just want to let you know I actually do have a newsletter online, that all my past issues are online. I used to hand them out, but quite frankly, takes a lot of luggage space when you're carting around newsletters, and you can go online. You can read loads and loads of past issues that deal with different topics. There is my website. Actually, I don't think I've got my website up here. My website is kayesrecipesandremedies.com. But these are the links. Now, I did a lot of talks in 2022, and I had them recorded, and they are up online. I've got them on YouTube. I've got them on Facebook. Because YouTube have banished me. What do you call it, Peter? They have stopped me. I've been banned for two of my talks have been banned on YouTube, because they said that I was violating their whatever. So I've got them also up on Rumble and also up on Brighteon. So they're the sites for the YouTube and the Facebook sites. So as I said, some of the talks, and they're just, who am I to become banned on these places? I mean, I don't say anything out of place, do I? Yes, I did. Yes. Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's the end of our talk today. I wanted to invite you next week, tomorrow, along. I'm going to be dealing with poultices. They are excellent. We need to know how we can help not just ourselves and our loved ones, but there are so many people. I could tell you story after story after story, which I've helped people by using poultices. So we need to know how to help your neighbour says to you, "Oh, I've got a terrible headache." You know what to say to them. You just say, "Well, have you tried such and such? Have you tried, for a start, water? Have you tried water?" "Oh, yeah, I've done that." "Oh, no." You know, there are so many things you can use to help people with these ailments. Like, for instance, what do you do when somebody has an upset stomach? You need to know what to give them for an upset stomach. Diarrhea. What do you do if you've got somebody with diarrhea? What do you do with somebody who has heart pain, palpitations? And I'm not talking about people who are in the throes of having to go to a hospital to they're in a heart attack. But we've come across people who are in a situation it's been critical. And Peter was there one time in New Zealand, and they were dealing with someone who had a heart attack. And they just gave them cayenne pepper and brought them out of their heart attack. So we need to know these things. So these are something, because I started off saying to you that I believe we're in the start of a very trying times for our world. We need to be educated on these things, and because there's times that we're going to be called to help other people. Well, that's brought us, as I said, to a close today. I'm sorry I've kept you a bit later. Sometimes that goes a bit longer than I expected. But, I mean, if you've got this on recording, and this talk is recorded, so all those slides are up on that YouTube, so you can go back and you can just check what each herb is good for. But my suggestion, you need to get yourself a good herb book. Sometimes Peter and I will go for a walk, and I'll take my book with me because I can't tell everything. I'm going for a walk and I think, "Oh, I don't know what that herb is." And I flick through my book trying to find it, and I've been able to identify some different herbs that way. Because if it's growing in your area, there's a reason why it's growing in your area. So, as I said, you can use all sorts of herbs, and often they're just weeds that most people would pull up, that are not at all important. But now have a newfold appreciation of what God has supplied in nature, because He has provided the antidote. I sometimes used to think, and I wondered, you stop and think, when Adam and Eve first sinned, immediately God allowed them and gave them herbs to increase, herbs to add to their diet. Why herbs? Because, herbs are the antidote for all the ailments. It's not as much the fruit. Yeah, fruit's cleansing, but the herbs give you back the minerals to rebuild you. And I just think, thank you, Lord. He's given us just something so precious in giving us herbs to eat. So that leaves me to a finish today, and I thank you for coming, and I just trust that you can come again tomorrow and spend time with us. We're going to have, I believe there's going to be a luncheon, and you're going to share with us the luncheon. So we'll have the morning session and then the afternoon session. Okay, well, thank you so much. Pardon? Okay.
All right, just before we leave, again, reminder for us, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll be here at 10, and then we'll have lunch about 12, and then we'll start again at 1:30.